Hello and welcome to the Loop Scoop. My name is Lana Fine. I'm your host. Today I'm sitting with Mick, who has kindly volunteered his time to come and speak with us about his expertise. So Mick, similar to myself, to the jobs that I did in Victoria, providing outreach services for the community, as well from the harm reduction lens, does a similar role here in Kamloops. Mick and I have more than a few things in common. So why don't we start by welcome, number one.
Thank you very much for having me.
And why don't you tell us all about you? Where did you grow up? What's your story?
I grew up, I live in Kamloops. Kamloops is my home. I moved here in 2009 from the Lower Mainland. Kamloops is home. I love the community. It's where my family all is now. I did some ski patrolling and whatnot up at Sun Peaks, and that led me into a career with the ambulance service.
Oh, very cool.
Yes, which it was pretty good. Unfortunately, as it goes with those types of careers, I got PTSD and I was no longer able to work. That coincided with the COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay.
And was a major driver for me to go back and finish my degree at university. I got a Bachelor of Interdisciplinary Studies degree at TRU and started working in social services from there on out.
That's so interesting. What's the interdisciplinary studies? So what was your mixture that you did?
Good question. What is interdisciplinary studies? Well, it's very interdisciplinary. My concentrations were political science, sociology, social work, and psychology.
Oh, that makes sense.
My main goal going into university, as in going into working in the ambulance service, was just to be able to help people. And that's what I started with and figured that was the best way to go about it.
That gives you an extremely valid insight to the whole other aspect of healthcare than it would if you were coming in it from reading it in a textbook. Like having lived that and done that service for people, and thank you for that work that you did. It's not something that people can stay in forever, right?
And my friends that are still in it, they're wild, man. Yeah. They love it though. They love
Mad
it.
Respect for them,
It's what they want to do.
So what has it been like taking that degree that you have and bringing it to your role within the community, providing harm reduction services? What does a day of the life of Mick look like? Yeah,
so I start my day in the morning, catching up with whatever may have been left over from the day before, and then we start helping people. Yeah.
So you're really doing it all. You touched on all these different aspects that really are so important for an individual's life, especially when people are experiencing the barriers that they are. And you're that person that might change someone's, not just their day, but you could make a huge impact on them.
Absolutely. A lot of the systems that we navigate are relatively difficult to navigate, even for somebody that's very privileged and has access to a stable internet connection and a reliable phone line. Sometimes I'm just that. I'm a reliable phone line. They know that they can come to where I am and my phone's in my pocket and they can use it to connect with whoever, or if they call back, sometimes I'm a secretary. I'm absolutely not a one-man show, though. There are so many people within our community that have backgrounds like you and I, and are dedicated individuals that show up to work every single day. Knowing who does what and where is a pretty big part of the job.
I recall that part being so important. It's like not always about knowing what justice services are, but knowing, your allies kind of within these organizations and how to get things done for people.
Yeah, and like the specific nuances of program A versus program B. And
totally.
You've got, you've worked really well with this person here, but they're not there anymore. So it could be different. Also, man, like, sometimes my clients don't have the ability to sit on hold for hours and hours and hours on end. No. And I'm more than happy to just sit there, wait, and then advocate for them when it's there.
Totally. That's like one of the big pieces about outreach roles is that people need, it's not, they might often have a very clear idea of what it is that they need to do, but it's that issue with being able to voice it in a way that is heard by, political bureaucracy and within it. So a lot of my, job was very similar, and it was doing this paperwork that, I get frustrated, and I had a social work degree. There's a lot of challenges that exist for people just to be able to achieve their basic needs and rights.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you touched on harm reduction, and a big piece of harm reduction is meeting people where they're at,
exactly.
Right? And that's the majority of what I do, is just meeting people where they're at, holding space for them in what they're going through, and providing them help in the way that they feel they need it most. It's not up to me to determine what help they need. It's up to them to tell me what they need and for me to provide that help. That's
the important part about that it's not your choices or your views that you're putting on them. It's people coming to those decisions or conclusions themselves. So that's so important. That's really great.
Yeah, that was a very hard worldview change for me, was going from riding as a paramedic in an ambulance. We'd respond to toxic drug events, and we'd go to the hospital, and I'd be thinking of this person needs this person needs that, I can't believe it, and their concern about something to me that I didn't feel was important. Accepting people's autonomy to make decisions for themselves was very difficult worldview shift for me. I went from riding in ambulances, responding to people on their worst days, providing the help that I was trained to provide in a way that was very XYZ, to now I'm approaching people and it's not XYZ. Everything is different. There's letters, there's numbers, and there's symbols I don't even recognize anymore. It's definitely not XYZ. But it's still very important to provide that help in the same, I don't know if urgency is the right word, but with the same importance as providing the help that I was providing as a paramedic, right?
Okay.
Like, helping somebody access their next meal and know that their food security is increasing is just as important as providing traction to a broken leg, to that individual.
That makes a lot of sense. So even though it might not be exactly the same thing, putting as much like value and importance into completing these things for people because it means that to them.
That is exactly what I'm getting at.
Okay, perfect. Nice. Understood. I'm paying attention at least, right? That's a good thing to hear from your host. Everything that you're saying makes me think about how these roles that all these important people in community play with supporting individuals, about the work that they take home at the end of the day. How do you deal with that? How do you care for yourself when you're working within this crisis?
That, oddly enough, was also something that was very difficult for me to learn.
Okay.
As a paramedic, like I alluded to earlier, I got PTSD. I was no longer able to work as a paramedic. I feel like a lot of that was, you see people in the worst moments of their lives, and I was taking a lot of it home. It's really important to involve yourself in your community and your relationships, and to have a set self-care routine, especially. And I find for people in this work, in this frontline work, I remember when I first started, I was told to put positive affirmations in my phone so that I could have a hard day and I could go back and read them. And
you're wonderful.
Yeah. And I thought that was a little corny, a little cheesy, but I did it anyway.
Okay.
And it started kind of changing to nice things that I had heard throughout the day.
Okay.
And so now, it's a list that I can reflect on and go back to and be like, today sucked, but here somebody told me that I changed their life, or I responded to, we had a positive outcome from a drug event. Or
that's really cool.
Yeah,
it's almost a collective of positive stories in a way, because that quote that you've written down is going to bring a memory to you, obviously.
Yeah, it's
and help to replace those negative things that happened.
Yeah, it's like chicken soup for my soul.
That's so great. I should have done that when I was doing that work.
It's honestly, I thought it was kind of silly when I did it, and sometimes I still kind of laugh at myself when I put things in it, but when you really need it and it's there, it's nice to have. It's, you know, you got to practice those self-care routines before you need them.
It's
because
true.
You got to, when you're in crisis or you're having a horrible day and you don't know what's going on, you need to fall into those troughs.
Having things set up before the, you know, things,
Right.
stuff goes down
Yeah.
is a good plan. Otherwise, you just, you know, if you can't care for yourself properly, then how are you can be expected to care for other people?
Totally.
Yeah, yoga was really helpful for me, and music is my big thing, getting through stuff. And what are your thoughts about how the connection comes into it, connection with community and connection with other people? Like, there's a book that I often think about. It's one of my favorites, with Johan Yari's The Lost Connections, and it's like looking at like the root causes of depression, how some people have struggled with different mental health issues and stuff with addiction, and the real thing at the root of it is this connection with other people. Mm-hmm. Do you find that you're somebody that likes to connect with people at the end of your day, or you're somebody that's just like, I'm done with people for today, that's enough?
I spend a lot of my day away from home connecting with people. So at the end of the day, I have my few connections that I really appreciate that I tend to fall back on. Yeah. But if I wasn't in the role that I'm in, being active in the community, connecting with people every day, I would be like, I'm an extrovert. I want to go talk to people. I completely
agree with you on that one. It's like people think that you don't have, like, what the work you're doing is meaningful. 100%. And when you have meaningful work, that you get those connections through it, that still counts in your, you know, your bucket of positivity. The amount of people that feed your soul, you know?
Yeah, the community trust that I've developed is very valuable to me. I truly do cherish the fact that there's some members of our community that are experiencing marginalizations or hardships, and they trust me to help them. I find that just absolutely lovely and incredibly bucket filling or cup filling.
That's so awesome.
And it's important to bring home the good parts too, right? And that's a huge part for me.
I remember when I was doing my schooling for my Bachelor of Social Work at University of Victoria, and the majority, I will say, my classmates ended up working for the ministry, working with kids. Mm-hmm. And that was something that I never wanted to do myself. And I just, by the end of it, what I saw was that at the end of their days, there's a lot of fear around leaving work and having people like follow them home, and issues with, because they might have been involved with some Protection Act stuff with people's kids. And whenever I left my job at the end of the day, I felt good knowing, like clients like give you hugs, and you get voicemails on the weekends and like about just saying such positive things. And I was like, I couldn't imagine of picking a different career than that, like going down that way. And just so trying to help empower people.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Finding the positivity shining through the massive negativities is incredibly important.
Yeah, that's really valid. Thank you for sharing that. So what gives you inspiration to keep going and keep fighting the fight?
That community trust, man, and the community, right? Like, I think it'd be really easy to look at our community, what we feel is wrong with it, or what could be better, and pack up and go somewhere else where it could be better. But I feel like it's, I don't know, the right thing to do as a community member to try and make that community better. Yeah. Like Kamloops has been very, very good to me, and I feel like Kamloops can be very, very good to everybody, and I want it to get to that point.
It's interesting that you say that, because when I moved to the community of Kamloops, I was a little bit like culture shocked in the way of coming from Victoria, and it's working with so many like-minded people. You can often just think that that's what the world kind of looks like. Mm-hmm. And so it was a challenge for me, and to kind of accept that. And my dad's the one that really brought that to my attention. He's like, the way in which, if you're going to make any difference, you can't do it only with people that agree with you. It has to be in these communities where they need people like yourself and me to be there to try and make changes for the better. Yeah,
solutions have to work for everybody.
Yeah, and working with people, and not just, swooping in and being like, no, you should go down this way because it's done better in this other place. That doesn't effective in working across the table with people.
No, I completely agree. It's empowering them to make the decisions for themselves, even if we know how that decision may end, or we think we know how that decision may end. Ultimately, it's up to them to make that decision and to learn from those mistakes.
Yeah, totally.
If it's a mistake.
Yeah.
We don't have many safety nets in place as a society or as communities to, catch people if they fall through those cracks, and create safe spaces to make these mistakes and learn, because it's part of the human experience, man, is trying and failing.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that too. And when we spoke with Jordan White on one of our previous, episodes, there's a big conversation around dialogue versus debate. When instead of having arguments with people, it's about this collaborative conversation going on if there's any hope to change things for the future. And I'm also aware, Mick, that you have done some harm reduction at music festivals and events. Like, what was that like for you, going from the city to, to an event that's a little bit different than the average day? What was that like?
It's a nice change of pace. It's work in a different capacity. But I think really, if you boil it down, it's not as different as you might think. Still making connections with people, still providing people with the tools and the knowledge to make the best decisions for themselves, empowering them to make the best decisions for themselves. Lots of times people seek harm reduction at festivals for any type of emotional crisis that they may be experiencing as well. So it's similar. It's the same thing in a different. No.
Is it possible, from my perspective, what I saw was that it's basically the same principles that you're applying as you do with your work, but it's in this setting that's like a little more jazzy and like a little more all-together community, where you don't just go home at the end of the night. Like, you're there for a few days. You're full-on connected, and you're kind of the liaison between services like medical and security, which can become really a front when people are brought to an area like music festivals, where they might be there and indulging in things that they might not have been in their normal lives.
Yeah.
And I think that it was very interesting and fun, but also it was just as important and valid. And even if you do get to catch some music on the side, right?
Yeah. It's super fun doing harm reduction while there's DJs and bass smashing through the trees behind you. It's delightful.
It's
a good time. It's a really good time.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
It feels cool. It's a fun place to be. But yeah, you're right. The community, the communal aspect at music festivals is, and especially like electronic music festivals, where the majority of my experience is it's such a tight-knit community. And even if there's somebody that's not in the community that's struggling, it's very quickly absorbed by the community and assisted, or they know where to go to get help or how to help that person.
Yeah, that's so true.
Right, it's kind of working at harm reduction in electronic music festivals is also like creating a safe space for people to have necessary conversations or talk about substance use, or what their plans are for the weekend, or you just seeing what's available,
totally
right? Talking to people that have probably been to a festival before if they're volunteering at the harm reduction tent.
Yeah, you can never really know what someone's going to come up and chat with. It's like it's the same variety kind of, I felt like, as doing outreach, but it's just like some people just want to come and talk to you just because you're there doing your like harm reduction itself, which is it's pretty interesting, all the people that you meet that way. Like, I had a onesie sign out sheet and all kinds of like candies, and it was a fun tent to be in, so no wonder people wanted to come sit down in it, right? Right.
It's a good time.
When you put out the good vibe space, then you're definitely going to have people that are going to come towards it. That's the way energy works, right?
Yeah, it's also the harm reduction booth at music festivals is a bit of a magnet for other people that work harm reduction, so it's really fun to talk to other people. Like, oh, hey, you're from there. What's it like there? What are you guys doing there? The networking is really
that's true. We all do really have a love affair with each other, don't we? In that sense, there's just mad respect for anyone.
Yeah. Hey, nice. I do that too. I love you.
I know, totally. It's probably like nurses probably do the same thing.
They have to.
There's no way we're the only people in this career that do these things.
Yeah.
Right? You're just not doctors, but hey, we'll take a look. No. Mick, you mentioned drug checking at music festivals. What does that look like for those at home that might not have seen that before and know what we're talking about?
That's a good question. So drug checking at music festivals and largely drug checking in community employs infrared spectroscopy to measure the amount of infrared light absorbed by a substance to create a spectra that is then checked by a technician against a database to determine what is in the sample. Essentially, a substance creates a fingerprint.
Okay.
And we take the fingerprint from the sample and try and determine what other fingerprints are in there. So it can be fairly tricky if there's complex substances. Like if a sample has more than 5 components to it, it can be fairly difficult to detect. The specific instrument that's employed in community and in festival drug checking has a detection limit of about 5% as well. So it struggles to determine what's in the sample beneath that 5%. So to make up for that, each sample is also tested with an immunoassay test strip testing for fentanyl.
Okay.
So if there was fentanyl in a sample up under that detection limit, that could potentially be fatal for somebody.
Exactly.
So testing it with a fentanyl test strip, these test strips are, their cutoff is 30 nanograms per milliliter, which is well below the minimum effective dose for a human. Mm-hmm. These were originally designed to test for fentanyl after it had been consumed and metabolized by somebody and test their urine.
Oh, okay.
So we're using it before the consumption to test for the presence of fentanyl.
Thank you. You explained that in such a more feasible and understandable way than I would have been able to. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. For more information about drug checking in community and in festivals, you can go to drugchecking.ca for the Interior Health drug checking page. And for full results from drug checking in BC, you can go to drugcheckingbc.ca.
One thing that I found fascinating myself when I was working with the substance check UVic project in Victoria, BC, was the scarcity of actual heroin that was in the samples. Have you seen the same thing? Or the lack of the same thing? Not seen that?
Yeah, to my knowledge, there's not any heroin out there anymore. The down is generally fentanyl or a fentanyl analog.
Such as carfentanil, norfentanil.
Parafluorofentanyl, orthofluorofentanyl, methylfentanyl. There's so
the list keeps growing.
The fentalogs, if you will. There's a tremendous list of them, all of which have varying potency.
When looking at the drug supply and kind of how we got here, it's great to trace it back to Prohibition, to help frame it in a way that's comprehensible for people. And when we talk about why it's here, I think it's important to realize about the profitability of it. When things are more compact and have more strength to them, then it is going to be more profitable. So I think that does help speak to and explain why we are seeing what we're seeing continue.
Yes, I would agree with that. Also, with these substances being more potent, errors from cross-contamination or subpar lab practices can be fatal now. Somebody without an opioid tolerance that inadvertently ingests opioids, that could very well be a toxic drug event.
Completely. Even allergies, like somebody have an allergy to codeine. I've seen overdoses from that occur.
Right. Really, hey?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Allergies. Oh, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, codeine being used as a cut in a substance that we had checked at substance check, and it came back that it was a large cut of codeine in somebody's MDMA, and they had experienced an overdose from that sample.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. We'll provide some links in the reference list to be able to check out some of these facts for yourself to see how this is playing out in Canada and small communities. Let's talk about what else is in the drug supply. So we're seeing an increase in benzodiazepines in the supply in Victoria. Is that something that you see here locally or at festivals that you've been to? When doing drug checking?
At festivals, it's very, very common that the drugs are what they're expected to be. Very, very, very common. We can link to the infographics that are available from drug checking from festival drug checking for the past few years that data is available, and it will show that the drugs are more often than not what they are expected to be. With that being said, though, even if the drug is what it's expected to be, there are still harm reduction practices to take with that. Very commonly people talk about set and setting with drug use, but there's also there's a few more points that can be expanded into that. There's setting, intention. What's your intention with using that substance? What guardrails do you have up with that substance? And what's the dose that you're going to take?
Very valid things to consider.
Yeah, especially in festival drug checking. In community drug checking, it is also still common that the drugs are what they are expected to be in a drug checking scenario.
So Mick, if I'm somebody who is coming to use drug checking services, and let's say I brought something that I thought was MDMA, you'd be able to tell me it was MDMA with that machine?
A drug checker would, yes, be able to tell you what's in the substance that you brought in. When you are accessing a drug checking service, there's a few questions that you're asked first. What's the substance expected to be? Have you used it yet? If you have, has there been any negative effects about it?
Or unexpected
impacts from it? And then if the substance was collected from a piece of paraphernalia or not. Those questions are asked, provide context to help to maybe answer questions about an unexpected event. In this hypothetical situation, Lana, if you were accessing a drug checking service and you go, hey, I've got this, what I think is MDMA, but when I took it, I felt really weird and I was having a really bad time, and I started getting sweaty and I was really hot and I really didn't like it. I think there might be something else in it. You may access the drug checking service and it may be determined that substance is MDMA, but in having a conversation with the service providers, you can talk about how there may be other factors that impacted where you were and what happened to you that time. Okay,
so things like how you've taken care of your body that day.
Exactly.
If you slept and eaten and drinking water and
exactly.
too much sun exposure.
Exactly. Yeah. So in festival settings, like, hey, I've been awake for 3 days. I've eaten 1 peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
There might be some other factors that are contributing.
There's more dust in my nose than hairs. Why do I feel weird?
Yeah, okay, yeah. That's great, the picture people understand. Yeah, it's not just so much about the one thing, but it's those conversations that you then get to have with people to make them examine all the factors that are contributing to that experience.
Absolutely. It exists to provide accurate and honest information to empower people to make decisions for themselves.
Just as harm reduction is.
It's harm reduction. Even if a substance is brought in that's not what it's expected to be, a conversation can be had about what that substance is, what the impacts are from it. Is it something that is it something you maybe would be interested in experimenting with? Do you need to go back and have a conversation with the person that you purchased it from?
Yeah, that's a really good point about the transparency that it can often create for people to be able to have a discussion with where they got it from too, right? So it's not just about cutting agents. It's not just about knowing what it is. There's a whole bunch of different things I hear you mentioning that are all valid points towards why drug checking is effective in combination with other things.
Yes. Yeah. It all boils down to, and as I said before, is empowering people to make decisions for themselves and providing them with the information that they need to do so. If I go into a liquor store and I don't want to get super drunk, I just want to get a little buzz on. There's a number on each bottle or can that tells me the percentage of the alcohol in that.
Right, because you have that percentage of alcohol content on the products that gives you that. So drug checking can essentially provide a little bit of that knowledge and choice for someone to then make their decision for themselves.
Drug checking is not a replacement for a regulated supply, but in the realm of a toxic drug crisis and a public health emergency, it is a way to provide information to people who use drugs so that they can adequately make the best decision for themselves. And when I say people who use drugs, I don't mean that this is, well, no, we already talked about festivals.
Yeah.
We talked
people
about
who use drugs look like all different kinds of things,
people who use
right?
drugs look like all sorts of different
doctors,
people.
lawyers, business people, politicians, Everybody is somebody who could potentially be a person who uses drugs, right?
Absolutely. I've brought along a couple of books written by people who use drugs, who have doctorate degrees and are Ivy League professors. So
But you'd be hard-pressed to find people who, number one, haven't been touched by this crisis,
Yeah.
but that don't have some kind of experience themselves.
absolutely. Drugs is an interesting word. There's the societal definition of drugs, which, when you say that, people often think of, little baggies being sold on street corners in the shadows.
Not all drugs are the illegal ones that people, like when you're saying come in a little baggie or a pill from, a pill pressing machine. There's that legal pharmaceutical side to it too. And then things that we consume every day, like caffeine, without people even thinking about
Right.
that being a drug.
Humans have altered their mental status forever, and we will continue to do it.
Yeah.
It's a product of society.
Right. And when you have a behavior in society that people are going to engage with, harm reduction it exists because we know there's risk associated in life. If you ride a bike, you put on a helmet.
Exactly. Yeah. Nothing is free of risk.
Yes.
But in our daily lives, we practice things to remove the risk or reduce the harms from what may happen. Like you mentioned, you put a helmet on when you ride a bike. You cross the road in the crosswalk. We put our seatbelts on when we get in the car. These are all forms of harm reduction.
Yeah.
Riding in a vehicle is inherently dangerous. There is inherent risk to getting in a heavy metal cylinder and traveling at speeds that you cannot travel by yourself.
Yeah, this is
There
true.
is inherent risk in that. And we have created ways to avoid these risks.
Yeah.
We're not telling people don't drive. We're just finding ways to remove the harms that are potential in that.
So, Mick, with all your wealth of knowledge that you've shared and we've talked about, what do you see as being potential solutions to the current problems that we face in small communities and across Canada, such as the housing crisis and the toxic drug crisis?
That is a loaded question, Lana.
I set you up, I know.
We are facing concurrent crises as a society. What we experience in small town or small city Kamloops is different than what's experienced in Vancouver. But if you look for commonalities between things that we do experience similarly here in small town Kamloops and in Vancouver, and maybe even in rural communities, is security and space. And like we were talking about, a space to exist. We, as a society, have profited off of housing for a very long time. It's viewed as an investment in a lot of senses. And when we're profiting off of something that people need to survive and thrive in our society, people are going to not be able to have it. That's just how it works. I would love to see some sort of policy that would be similar to when you go to a backyard barbecue.
Okay.
Nobody gets a second plate until everyone's had one.
That's a really good way to look at it.
Same thing with housing.
Yeah. Thank
Nobody
you for
gets
sharing
two
that.
until everybody has one.
Yeah, you had a lot of valid points that you brought across and good ways to frame them that might be a little bit more digestible for people to apply that to.
Because like I said, solutions have to work for everybody.
Yep.
But also, though, unfortunately, for the privileged class, equality to the lesser class looks like loss.
Yep.
And we just got to be comfortable with that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So what gives you hope that things are going to improve and get better?
The community, mostly. Yeah, the community trust, the relationships that I build. I really like Kamloops.
That's so awesome.
I really do like it here. I've met some incredible people here. I've gotten involved in some awesome communities here, and I really feel like that it can be the same for everybody. And when I improve one person's day, or it makes it worth it. I mean,
totally get that.
I don't think I could do something else.
So my next question for you, Mick, is are you single? No, I'm joking. Who's your support network? Who supports you to be able to do the work you do?
I'm very privileged to have a very thorough and strong support network that consists of a variety of friends, my partner, my daughter, my mom, my brother. I'm very privileged to have a supportive group of people to fall back on.
That's so great. And it doesn't have to always look like the definition of family for people, right? Where they get their support from.
No, I mean, it is that age-old cliche about how it takes a village, but it totally does, man. And I'm quite fond of my little village.
Well, I think that you're doing amazing things for our community, and I so appreciate you taking the time to stop and chat with me and share all of your wisdom that you had. And this has just been like a chill hangout, so it wasn't really even like having an interview anyways.
No, this was pretty good. Thank you so much for having me, Lana. I love the space that you guys are in here.
We're currently at Same Sky Collective's new studio, which we will show in an upcoming episode.
Foreshadowing.
So, thank you for coming. Is there any last words that you wanted to share with our audience at home?
Be nice to yourself and be nice to others.
I think that's so important. And I think you're super rad, dude. So thank you for taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Lana.
And thank you for watching this week's episode.